he's talking about there's more footage. There's 140 hours that he has, and each episode was only maybe an hour, I think. There was 4 episodes, so there's at least 130 something more hours that he hasn't edited or produced.
For some reason, Diddy, around the time of his arrest, thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be exonerated later, so I'm going to film all this, and then I can use it in my big comeback later when I'm not in jail. Didn't work out the way he thought, and it turns out he went to jail for a few years. All right, he didn't get the full amount, but he still got a few years. And 50 Cent somehow managed to pay for the footage off of the videographer. Probably Diddy's worst nightmare, this. It's got to be up there. Now, we're going to get into what's in the actual documentary, and fucking hell, it's something. But
was there anything that surprised you from that footage?
The footage, well, I mean, I think it's rare to find someone who's being, talked about all over the country. All eyes were on him, so to speak. And it was really interesting to see his last days of freedom, and what was sort of important to him. Obviously, there's phone calls with his attorneys, with his team. It was very interesting to watch a man who's known for his brand presence. He has a really amazing knack for marketing and all of that, and how he was sort of taking that into account in how he was coming off to the public, in the days leading up to his arrest and indictment.
Like 3 or 4 pictures in the documentary that I've seen of myself. Some people say they saw more, but I know three different times where I was certain places that you could actually see me in the documentary, and that's the only.
When Netflix dropped The Reckoning focused on Sean Diddy Combs, the reaction was immediate. Viewers instantly picked up on the gravity of the accusations, the ominous atmosphere, and a timeline that already felt deeply troubling. Still, despite the documentary's heavy subject matter, many people were left with the same lingering impression: something wasn't fully there. It wasn't that the project lacked serious claims or key details. It was the feeling that the most uncomfortable, unfiltered moments had been softened or held back, leaving the story exposed enough to shock, but not enough to feel completely bare. That tension is exactly what fueled the growing speculation around the film. Once word started circulating that the filmmakers may have had access to far more footage than what actually appeared on screen, the conversation took on a new life. Suddenly, the real fascination wasn't just about what Netflix included. It was about what audiences never got to see. And that matters because the missing material was not rumored to be random filler or harmless behind-the-scenes scraps. People familiar with the situation say some of it was captured in the tense stretch leading up to Diddy's 2024 arrest, when public scrutiny was intensifying and his image was starting to unravel in full view. That possibility makes the unseen footage feel even more explosive. It may not simply add context to the documentary. It could dramatically shift the emotional impact of the entire story. Adding to the intrigue are the names tied to the controversy. On one side is 50 Cent, a longtime adversary of Diddy who has never disguised his contempt and clearly knows how to turn scandal into a headline-making media spectacle. On the other is j-zay, a former insider who spent years around Diddy and continues to insist that the public has only been shown a sliver of what really exists. Then there's the legal drama, which only sharpens the mystery. Netflix maintains that the footage used in the documentary was obtained legally. Diddy's camp, however, argues that private content was taken without proper permission. At the same time, 50 Cent keeps teasing that there is far more material out there, while j-zay continues to echo that claim. With all of those forces colliding, the central question becomes impossible to ignore. What exactly was left on the cutting room floor, and why was it kept there?
Reason, Diddy, around the time of his arrest, thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be exonerated later, so I'm going to film all this, and then I can use it in my big comeback later when I'm not in jail. Didn't work out the way he thought, and it turns out he went to jail for a few years. All right, he didn't get the full amount, but he still got a few years. And 50 Cent somehow managed to pay for the footage off of the videographer. Probably Diddy's worst nightmare, this. It's got to be up there. Now, we're going to get into what's in the actual documentary, and fucking hell, it's something. But let's quickly take a look at 50 Cent's press tour, where he looks like a kid at Christmas right now. I've never seen a man this happy when it wasn't on like the day his kid was born.
How did you get that footage of Diddy?
I figure most journalists would not disclose their sources.
50 Cent's a journalist now, is he? He's ruthless.
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt,
Oh God, he's bad to the bone, isn't he? What 50 Cent is doing right now is basically a lesson to us all, right? Maybe we're just not hating enough on the people who are shit to us. And the documentary starts out with Diddy panicking about his public reputation just days before he was due to get arrested. On the phone to his lawyer, trying to come up with strategy.
We need the core theme to be, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong on any front.
By the way, these conversations, the lawyer had no idea he was recording them. them. So when the lawyer's like, yeah, we need everyone to believe you did nothing wrong, it kind of takes away from when the lawyer is out in public saying, yeah, my client is completely innocent, and now he's showing the behind the scenes where he clearly didn't think he was very innocent. So not Diddy's smartest move. However, throughout this journey, you'll see he makes a lot of crazy decisions.
I don't think it's working. I've listened. I've been a superb client, as you said. I jumped on the plane. I'm coming to New York, but I'm just running around waiting for a shoe to drop.
He's shitting himself right now, in case you can't tell, and he really doesn't look good.
It's the middle of September and there's still no indictment.
Bro, then you have to have a spokesman. You have to have some sort of comms to constantly be pushing that, Mark. Because you may just be a person that you just may watch CNN. You know what I'm saying? And there's 9 billion people in the world, and 7 billion of them is on Instagram and TikTok.
He's basically trying to get control of the narrative. That's what he's really worried about. He wants public perception to be, this was all bullshit. Unfortunately for him, we had all seen the CCTV of him beating the shit out of Cassie, so we know you're not a good guy, man. That's out there. A statement from your solicitor is really not going to change that.
We have to find somebody that'll work with us, whether they're from this country or from another country. It could be somebody that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business of media and propaganda.
We need to brainwash some motherfuckers right now, and we need people who are used to working with the dirtiest of dirty, because that's what he is, and he's admitting it. How could you let this footage fall into the hands of 50 Cent, my guy? And honestly, it always comes down to money with Diddy, because Diddy didn't get rich just because he was, clever in music. Diddy got rich because he robbed people all the time, and him not taking care of the people around him, it just comes back to bite him a million times over.
It's like we have a movie, and you're speaking this language, and you know what I'm saying, we need subtitles, and we're not providing the audience with subtitles. And I invited you to this movie, and you in this thing, you don't know what's going on. You just see you just see the images, quickly. Now it has a whole life of its own.
I gotta say, this whole doc was edited well. When he said you just see the pictures and they cut to the CCTV. Well done, 50. You nailed that, son. If you're going to take him down in style. So you get a clear window from the jump here into Diddy's psyche. He doesn't give a fuck about Cassie or any of these girls. He doesn't give a fuck about anyone. It's save yourself mentality, and it's crisis mode. And you can see on his face, well, he's got a drug problem. This is at an all-time high of his drug taking, surely, because he has stress stuff.
The footage generating the most buzz reportedly comes from Diddy's final days before his September 2024 arrest, and that timing changes everything. These were not carefree clips of a celebrity casually documenting his day-to-day life. According to descriptions of the material, he appeared to understand that pressure was mounting from every direction. Rather than moving like someone confident and untouched, he seemed to be navigating those moments like someone trying to stay ahead of a crisis before it completely consumed him. One of the most talked about scenes allegedly shows Diddy in a hotel room with his attorney on speakerphone. The delivery may have sounded calm, but the substance of the exchange told a much more revealing story. There were reported references to losing, to controlling the message, and to making sure the public continued to believe he had done nothing wrong. What makes that so striking is that it suggests something beyond a legal defense strategy. It points to an effort to actively shape public perception while the walls were beginning to close in. That distinction is what gives the footage its unsettling edge. Once someone is not only concerned with legal survival but also fixated on how the outside world will interpret every development, the situation stops looking like ordinary case preparation. It starts to look like real-time reputation management. And the more these scenes are discussed, the more important the timing becomes. These were not retrospective comments after conviction, and they were not polished statements delivered in carefully controlled interviews. This was before the arrest, before the courtroom battles, and before the full collapse of control had played out in public. Seen through that lens, the footage appears to capture a pivotal moment when Diddy may still have believed he could contain the damage, even as it was becoming clear that wealth, power, and influence might not be enough to steady the situation. That is why so many people now doubt the documentary told the whole story. If even fragments of this material have sparked such intense reaction, then the unreleased footage naturally becomes even more compelling than what was aired. It raises the possibility of additional scenes revealing not just strategy, but fear, panic, and the kind of psychological unraveling that powerful figures work hardest to keep hidden. That is also why Diddy's legal team pushed back so aggressively. They say these were private conversations that should never have become part of the public conversation. Netflix and 50 Cent appear to see the matter very differently. and caught in between is the most uncomfortable possibility of all. That the most revealing material in this entire saga is still the footage the public has not fully seen.
50, how'd you get it, and what does that scene show?
Well, I mean, you're a journalist, Harvey. Harvey, you would not disclose your sources.
We usually don't.
Yeah, but I got it. Yeah.
What he said.
And what do you think it conveys? Because we see someone trying to pull the strings and talking about, he would say affecting, others would say manipulating the public views of the allegations.
I think that, one big theme of the series is to go behind the scenes to really understand how brilliant you could say Sean Combs is at marketing, at owning his narrative, controlling the narrative at all times. And so why would that stop, when his life is on the line? So I think that, on its face, that's what it is. But as you get deeper in the film, you start to realize, perhaps how some of these tactics, how they really came to present themselves, during the trial.
You show that, his abilities, his early rise.
Right.
Alexandra, you also give time to victims of the alleged abuse. Some of the cases are in different procedural postures. And you show victims who were women and men. Why is that important?
Because, victims of sexual assault, sexual violence, that should... gender should not be a part of that conversation. When you are a victim, you are a victim. And I think that, this series was a platform in a way for these alleged...
One of the biggest mysteries surrounding this entire situation is how the footage slipped beyond Diddy's control at all. Reports suggest he had been filming himself extensively for what was described as a personal project. The idea, as it has been presented, was that the material could eventually help frame his side of the story, protect his public image, and maybe even support a comeback narrative if he emerged from the legal storm with enough room to rebuild. But a plan like that only works when the people handling the material remain loyal, compensated, and fully aligned with the mission. According to multiple accounts, that is where everything started to fracture. Agreements reportedly were left unsettled, payments allegedly stalled, and trust within the circle began to erode. Once that breakdown happened, the footage was no longer just private documentation. It became leverage. That shift is enormous, because in environments built on secrecy and control, anything once seen as protection can quickly become a liability the moment loyalty disappears. That is why the reported role of videographers has become such a major part of the story. If the people holding the footage no longer felt secure, valued, or protected, then material originally intended to serve Diddy's interests could suddenly be useful to someone else. That is where many believe 50 Cent's production orbit entered the picture. He has not publicly spelled out the entire path the footage took, but he also has done very little to shut down the idea that he has seen far more than the public has. Instead, he has handled it in classic 50 fashion, with hints, jokes, and loaded suggestions that keep the intrigue alive. That strategy has proved incredibly effective, because it transforms the unseen footage into a kind of pressure campaign all by itself. Even without releasing everything, the mere suggestion that more exists keeps public attention fixed on what may still be out there, more context, more private moments, and perhaps a version of events that has yet to fully surface. Once that happens, the balance of power changes dramatically, and that may be the most revealing part of the entire saga. A man once known for controlling access, perception, relationships, and the room itself now appears to be in a position where someone else may possess the material that captures his most vulnerable moments. That is why the unreleased footage carries so much weight. Its power is not only in what it might show, but in what it symbolizes: a complete collapse of control.